How do I counsel a buyer that interest rates are the reason to buy right now? When interest rates are dropping, or at least a perception that they're falling to all-time lows, some buyers are waiting on the fence and saying, well, what's the right thing for me to do right now? Maybe the best thing for me to do is wait. We have to have an answer for that. And we have to realize that as great realtors, as being experts in the community, we have to have an answer that we can justify with facts and figures. As a matter of fact, as Steve Murray said, sales professionals need to present facts, figures, and charts that show the market clearly. So let me help you with that right now. In mortgage rates and where they've gone from March 30th of last year, 2008, what you'll see is there's been a downward trend 11 straight weeks. Now, I want you to understand that that was the first time since the Fed has been keeping records of a weekly rate that they went down any more than 6 consecutive weeks. And we're on an 11-week slide. So what winds up taking place is we're historically at a location now that we've never been before. Now, the last couple of weeks, the interest rates ticked back up a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what that means. What I do know is that we've on an 11-week slide. We can now look at history to say, well, when there was a 6-week slide, or any other slide before where interest rates went down consecutively, what took place afterwards? And I want to share that with you right now. To start off with, let's take a look at why interest rates went down this year. As you can see on the screen, mortgage rates from January 2008 all the way through September were on an upward trend. The federal government said that wasn't a good thing because they were trying to bring the housing industry back. So what they did is they went in and said, we have to take dramatic action in order to help the housing industry. And what they did at that moment in time is they did the bailout for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Right on the screen, you can see what the results of that were as far as interest rates are concerned. Interest rates immediately went down, pretty dramatically. But then the natural pressure of interest rates in 2008 was up. So what wound up taking place is once that settled out, that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac situation, interest rates started to creep back up again. And again, the federal government said, we have to intervene and we have to drive those rates low in order to bring back the housing industry. What was the second intervention? They came out with the $500 billion bailout for banks to buy toxic loans. What was the result of that announcement? Well, you can see it right on the screen. A dramatic dive in interest rates, that 11-week dive in a row, which we talked about. So we could see that in 2008, over the last 13 months, the natural trend for interest rates was up. But the government interceded in 2 different situations to make sure they kept them down. So now we have to figure out if the government forced the interest rates down to the lowest point in history, what do we think is going to happen next? Because that's the counsel we should be giving to buyers right now. What I did is I looked at interest rates going all the way back to 2003. From 2003 through 2008, a 6-year period. So what winds up taking place is if you look, you can see that the interest rates went up and down, up and down, up and down during that 6 years. The black line across that graph represents 5.75. Because I wanted to look at, in history, every time the interest rate went down below 5.75, what then occurred? And as you can see, there were 4 times that occurred, that the interest rate went down below that 5.75 and settled out. Now let's take a look at what happened each one of those times. Every one, 100% of the time. Up the first time, flying up the second time, dramatically rising the third time, and very obviously up again. So what we can see from history, from 6 years worth of history, the last 6 years, that when interest rates hit bottom, they dramatically skyrocket up. So when we're talking to buyers or sellers, whether they be our brothers or sisters, our sons or daughters, our mothers and fathers, and we're looking at it as a real estate expert, what we have to say is what's probably going to happen next. Because what my fear is that a buyer sitting on the fence, whether they're our relative or not, might be saying, well, I might be able to save another 1/10 of a point because that would help me. When in reality, the risk they're doing by trying to maybe save another 1/10 or 2/10 of a point might be the interest rate skyrocket up a 1/2 point, 3/4 point, or more than that. So if we're giving counsel to the buyer right now and we had to take a guess, and not an uneducated guess, a guess based on what took place in 2008, and a guess based on the history of the last 6 years, I think it's a risk waiting for the interest rates to go any lower. Matter of fact, I think it's a pretty big risk. And I would share that with your buyers and sellers. Let's help our buyers make good, logical decisions.